Good morning and welcome. One of the things which all rectors are asked by their congregation at some point or another is this: what are you going to do to bring more people into the church? What are you doing to bring young people to the church? And that's a question that's taken on a new dimension since COVID. We're now also being asked, what are you doing to bring back the people who haven't been at church since COVID? Well, we're going to be looking at the answer to that over the next 5 weeks. This is a job that we do together. We all have the task of bringing others to Christ. We know that we need to do something different. Christians, and particularly those who belong to mainline denominations, are very aware that times have changed, and that with those changing times, the whole landscape of faith has changed and how people choose to navigate that. Most denominations have seen a decline in church attendance in recent decades, with the result that many, even perhaps all, established churches are experiencing ramifications of fewer people in Christian communities. Fewer Christians to contribute their time and their talents to the work of the church. And this results in fewer resources, monetary and otherwise, the resources that are needed to support ministry and the work of the church. And COVID has caused even greater changes. The fact is that a large proportion of people, if not the majority, no longer attend church. In addition, the rules of engagement have changed for those who do attend our churches. What we've done in the past to attract membership in our various congregations and denominations is no longer as effective as it once was. Church attendance is slipping in many churches, and there's no doubt that this is unsettling. Maybe it's even alarming to many people. But here's the good news. Because of all these changes, a new mission field has opened up. There's a large demographic to whom we can offer the good news of the gospel. They consist of the unchurched, those who've had no previous experience of or contact with the institutional church. It also consists of the de-churched, those who have left our churches for various reasons. These people are just like you and me. They have a spiritual hunger, and they're looking to quench that hunger, to satisfy that thirst in different ways. And so I'd like to propose that we begin to equip ourselves for our new reality. What can we, as committed Christians, do to address it? Well, to begin with, we can remember. We can recall who we are as Christians and to whom we belong. From the very start, we have been a sent people, and the purpose of our sending is to invite others into communion with God. But most importantly, we can recall what a spirit of invitation has meant in our own journeys of faith. We can remember that inviting people to be with God is a recovery of who we all are as people who follow Jesus. Invitation involves everyone. It's not just the task of a gifted few. It's not just for clergy, not just for specific lay leaders. It's every single Christian's responsibility and gift. You don't need to be a professional to share your faith. Being theologically articulate is great, but it's not a prerequisite for speaking about our relationship with Jesus. We all come to Christ, and we can all share something of Christ in our own language and our own way. We also need to ask ourselves, what are we inviting people to? Are we inviting people to a community that has forgotten who it is and its purpose for being, or to a community that's scared for its survival and is now inviting out of a sense of worry and fear? No, that's not what we're inviting people to. We are inviting people into a loving relationship with God. We're inviting people to have a relationship with the same God who loves us so much and cares about us so much that He can number every hair on our heads. We are inviting people to learn and join the way of Jesus, a way that welcomes everyone, loves everyone, teaches everyone, redeems everyone. And we can be a people who invite in this way, a generous people, a loving people, a people committed to the good news of Jesus, who share the message of the gospel and invite others into the love of the triune God. And we also need to be aware that this might bring about some changes, because God isn't confined to the status quo. He doesn't need everything to be the same as it always has been. Instead, the Father sent His only Son that we might have everlasting life. And that priority may mean that we might give up some of the things for the sake of the one who loves us that much. Listen to these words from Isaiah 43. I'm reading verses 16 and 19, and this is the translation from the Message. This is what God says, the God who builds a road right through the ocean, who carves a path through pounding waves. Forget about what's happened. Don't keep going over old history. Be alert, be present. I'm about to do something brand new. It's bursting out. Don't you see it? Don't those words excite you? And so over the next few weeks, we'll be looking at the spirit of invitation. And we're using a series of short video clips and resources that are produced by the Diocese of Toronto. These will hopefully challenge and inspire us to think about the way that we invite people to encounter God. The series is based on some core principles. That we offer the love of God out of an overflow of what we ourselves have already experienced and been given. We offer this invitation from a community into a community. It's not an individual thing. And the process of invitation is grounded in relationships. It happens over time. It's not a program. It's an attitude of the heart and the mind that's grounded in the Christian family story. It's all about sharing our faith. So why would you invite the people you know to explore faith? Well, if we think about it, there are probably several answers to that question. On one level, Christians throughout the centuries have shared their faith because they believe the Christian story of God's love and reconciliation through Christ to be true. We believe that it's true, and so we share that. The truth of the gospel itself is reason to invite. On another level, we share the faith out of obedience to one of Jesus' clearest instructions. Matthew 28, verses 19 and 20, Jesus tells his first followers, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you." So we invite others to share our faith because we're being obedient to what Jesus told us to do. On another level, though, people have naturally invited the people they care about to explore Christian faith because in that faith, they themselves have experienced something profound and something wonderful. They invite others because they themselves have in some way been changed for the better. And it's the most natural thing in the world to tell the people that we love about this. It's like someone in the desert finding a pool of fresh water. You're going to tell the other people who are thirsty that you know where they can go to get water. The gospel, translated literally, means good news. And in short, the good news results in lots of good news in the lives of those who encounter Jesus. Everyone changes and grows in some way. For some people, faith results in them finding a deeper meaning to life. Others experience forgiveness, comfort, or a new sense of worth. Still others are challenged to face something that they've long denied, or let go of something that they've been clinging to. And the amazing thing is that this good news of the gospel, it's not just about individual lives. It's good news for society as a whole. Our faith teaches us how to find and value unity while celebrating each person. People offering their various gifts and talents and passions together to benefit everyone. The good news results in many forms of good news in individuals and in the world around them. Consider how the good news of Jesus transformed the lives of the woman at the well in John chapter 4 and Zacchaeus in Luke chapter 19. Maybe go and read those stories again. But think too of how the change in their lives impacted their communities. These passages show so clearly that Jesus cares deeply about human brokenness and that he brings transformation to people by changing the way they see themselves and by leading them to new ways of behaving. Through these changes, Jesus brings about changes in the world around each person whom he transforms. The church as a community with Jesus at its center teaches and lives by different values, goals, and practices. Faith changes things. People are changed. The way they live their lives is changed. And as a result, so is their surrounding context. So now we're going to watch the first video in our series, which is entitled The Table.
So a little while after my wife and I first started going out, I was looking for a low-key date. So we decided to go apple picking. Which basically means that you show up at this orchard in some grubby clothes and you pay some money, pick a few apples, and you get the privilege of some manual labor. So it was the end of an ordinary day in early fall, and we showed up at this place in our grubby clothes and took out our bag, and before long we were filling it and already starting to plan, the things we were gonna make. Crumbles and pies and candied apples. And I suppose that anyone who was there, who was watching this from the outside, would have found the whole thing pretty ordinary. But that's not how I remember it. I remember time stretching out. I remember the blues being bluer and the oranges and pinks being somehow more orange and pink than usual. And it was like me and my old t-shirt and my bag heavy with apples and this run-of-the-mill sunset were all caught up into another world just for a few moments, simply because of who I was with. So have you ever had that happen? You're fumbling your way through something relatively commonplace, but because you're in the company of that person, or those people, the ordinary thing becomes something you hadn't counted on, something almost unrecognizable, almost like you catch a glimpse of a different world, something lying just out of the range of ordinary sight. Maybe you're with a group of friends or some coworkers or some people from church, and just for a moment, kindness trumps selfishness, or the things that pull us together actually win out over the things that pull us apart. You start to begin to maybe believe that we're not alone, and right in the middle of the ordinary, you catch a glimpse of something extraordinary. So picture an ordinary loaf of bread, or better yet, a communion wafer. One of those little flat discs that some churches use for communion. And the thing is basically wheat and water, and it tastes like cardboard. There is nothing special about that. What could be more ordinary than that? But when Jesus breaks bread with his disciples, something different happens. Somehow that very same plain, ordinary bread, Jesus says it's his body, broken, given for us. Like suddenly bread isn't just bread anymore. In the company of Jesus, our daily bread becomes the bread of heaven. And our tangible and physical eating of the bread becomes this moment of connection with Jesus. He and us, and we and him. They say that some people used to call Jesus a drunkard and a glutton because you could always count on finding him at the dinner table. Can't you still? Isn't he still at the table, inviting us into this meal that's so obviously ordinary and at the same time a window into a different world? So what if this isn't just a nice but irrelevant ritual? One more odd thing that churchy people do on a Sunday. What if in some way it's a clue to the whole of life, to the very heart and center of this Jesus thing? And what if the most important thing about me and about you is that we're invited? Could it really be that God is inviting us to a new way of experiencing the world, others, and ourselves? Inviting us to find ourselves at the table with Jesus, taking part in a new reality that's breaking into the ordinary stuff of life in the here and now. Because that could be worth waking up to. That could be worth sharing. What would it be like to find the extraordinary tucked inside the ordinary all over again?
Being a Christian demands that we are transformed, not according to some recipe or all at once, but we are transformed nevertheless. And this transformation is about new life that grows in us because of the relationship that we now have with the living God. Perhaps you're someone who has walked with God for a long time. Have you reflected on how He has transformed you? How has your life changed because you love Jesus? Do you recognize this as good news that's worth sharing? On the 30th of October, we are having Back to Church Sunday. This will be an opportunity for you to invite someone to join you in coming to church. Or maybe it's an opportunity for you to come back to an in-person service if you haven't been back for a while. The next few weeks of teachings will help us to issue that invitation and to take that step. My prayer is that the good news of life and transformation will be a powerful reason to share the hope that is within us, made well up and spill over to all those around us who have yet to come to know Jesus. May they be eager to know Him, to find the extraordinary tucked inside the ordinary, because of the change that they see in us. Amen.